this is Catherine O'Connell and welcome to Lawyer on Air. If you are looking for inspirational stories about women in law, then this is the podcast for you. Join me and my lawyer ladies as we enjoy a glass of wine after a hard day at work and talk about the world of women in law. I hope you will enjoy getting to know these amazing women who I am so proud to share a profession with. I'm glad you're here and I hope you enjoy the show. Hi everyone, my name's Catherine O'Connell and I'm the host of Lawyer on Air podcast. I wanted to kick off this first episode by telling you a little bit about this podcast, why I'm launching it and who it's for, and what you can expect to hear when you tune in. Of course, I'd also like to remind you to like, subscribe and share the episodes as you listen to them. So why did I call this podcast Lawyer on Air? That's a really good question. And what I wanted to tell you was that it's a nickname that I coined for myself. And it came about in 2020, that horrific year that we've just had where COVID-19 consumed everybody around the globe. I live in Japan. In Japan, COVID-19 came to us by boat. We found it amongst the Diamond Princess cruise ship that was docked at Yokohama port. And from there, things just turned into worse and worse for Japan. And we all had to head off, obviously, outside of the office and go from working from home and continue to try and live our lives and do our work in the best way we could. And for me, I was really already working from home. I run a hybrid law practice in Japan where working from home, or teleworking as we call it in Japan, is really quite normal for me. So I didn't find that ramp up to working from home that difficult compared to other lawyers. So I was really well equipped, and I found that from the few webinars, meetings I was doing, that all of a sudden I started doing webinars a lot, right? A lot. So after a week of doing webinars here and there all the time, I then sort of thought about this nickname for myself. I'm a lawyer and I'm on air all the time. So I'm going to call myself Lawyer on Air. So there we have it. And each time I'm online, and you can see me sometime perhaps if you connect and we're on a Zoom call, you'll see in the background I have a Lawyer on Air light box, and that's always a talking point for anybody who's online with me. And for me, just Lawyer on Air gives me a real lift. And it's a really fun way for me to live my life as a modern day lawyer who's online a lot. So the podcast itself, right, it's also called Lawyer on Air because I think it's a very natural transition for someone who is a lawyer on the airwaves to then call a podcast on the airwaves the same name. And so I decided to launch this podcast. I had a lot of questions and answers and suggestions to do a podcast on business in Japan. And that is a passion of mine. However, I thought that might be something I can do for another episode or another series at a bit of a later stage. But for me at the moment, what I really want to talk about are women who are working in Japan, who are lawyers working in Japan, because these women who surround me and inspire me are people who don't really get enough publicity in the media in Japan, and you hardly ever see their stories. They're also really quite humble and modest women who are working here, and so they don't always blow their trumpets, as we say. So I feel through the experience that I've had and meeting so many wonderful people here who are working as lawyers, that they really need a voice piece. And because I won an award last year, Entrepreneur of the Year award, I thought, well, the world is my oyster. I can do anything I want as an entrepreneur. And so I thought, as an entrepreneur, a legal entrepreneur, I wanted to talk to these women and share all of their stories with you through this podcast. It might be the first time for a female lawyer to be doing a podcast in Japan. And so there I go again, perhaps being an entrepreneur of sorts in a different way. So at the time of launching this podcast, actually, I've been in Japan 18 years, doing a mix of work between private practice and in-house. So in-house roles I've taken up in Japan with various big corporates have been, I guess most of the work that I've done in Japan has been in-house. But now with this work I do through my own law firm, it's a kind of hybrid law firm where I'm doing work for both in-house legal teams and also for corporates on a kind of project or part-time basis. I refer to them as flexible secondments, and some of you listening will know exactly what I mean there. So I really never thought of running a business in Japan, let alone doing a law firm here. But I think when you view the world with entrepreneurship, many, many opportunities come to you. I also think as a female lawyer working in Japan, it really is an exciting experience. It's very rewarding. People, in my experience, have treated me very well. I've found that both men and women always appreciate a lawyer who has a different kind of point of view and experience and brings that to those people and enables them to have value added as they are attempting to have solutions to the problems that they have. And so for the women who are part of Japan working here, 19% of women working in Japan are lawyers out of the numbers that are around 43,000 lawyers in Japan. And as I just said before, these stories that they have are not amplified. They are trailblazers. They're also doing inspirational work here, but their stories just haven't been told. How they came to Japan, why they decided to come to Japan, how they boosted their careers here, landing a legal role, and how they've just navigated their way through life and law and the challenges they have in this really traditional business environment of Japan that we live in. So who is this podcast for? I think it's for all of these women who have been dedicated to doing hard work and pioneering their way through Japan. They are here every day supporting the massive infrastructures in Japan. It's the third biggest economy in the world. They are not only working for firms and working for businesses, they keep the cogs, I should say, of Japan and the Japan ink machine ticking along each day. And they're doing this while they're raising families. They're doing this while they're working outside in volunteer roles and NPOs. They're helping on chambers of commerce, all kinds of ways that they are lending their experience and their expertise beyond simply being a law firm associate or partner or working in-house. So I'm really here to try and uncover these stories and share them with you. And I do hope that you enjoy these experiences that you hear about. So what I want to do now is just invite you to think about, where you're sitting right now as you're listening to me, but also think about where I am. And so what I'd like to try to have you visualize is me sitting with one of my friends who I'm going to be talking with, one of my guests, and imagine that we're sitting at a wine bar, that we've got a couple of glasses in front of us. We've walked in perhaps and the owner knows us. The bartender knows us very well because we come in regularly and pours us our favorite drink, or else in my case, it will be something from the menu that is always going to be a Pinot Noir or a Sauvignon from New Zealand because that's where I come from. And so that's my first choice of wine. And as we keep having a couple of glasses, of course, our conversation gets more fluid and we're talking more about what we do, what we have been doing for the week, what plans we have, and, delving into some of these topics as we have a couple of glasses of wine. So that's the setting of the scene. And you can also imagine that perhaps you are sitting beside us, that you're overhearing our conversation, that you're kind of curious and you chip in and start joining our conversation too. That would be my wish for you listening to this series as you hear all of the guests speak about their lives and the work that they're doing in Japan. So if you're thinking also about taking your career to Japan, perhaps you're listening to this as a younger lawyer and you think, I'd like to do what Catherine does and all these other guests and come on over to Japan, then I also want this to be a podcast for you, to be an inspirational podcast to give you some guidance, some anecdotes about things that have happened to people, how you can thrive here as a female lawyer, what you can do, and also, just hear some gems and some little secrets here and there to help you as you move your way through your decisions on perhaps taking up your career here. And there's one other group of people that this podcast is for. It's also for men. Men support women in many, many ways, and certainly through my own life, and I know through other people's lives. It's our brothers, our uncles, husbands and partners, and our sons who all support us. And so many of these conversations will be applicable not only to women, but to men. And so I would like this podcast to also be an invite to men to also listen and have fun and have some more appreciation also for the women and the women who are in law surrounding them as they work here too. All right, so that's an explanation of what I am going to be having this podcast about. And what I'd like you to do as a great listener of mine is be sure to subscribe to this podcast. That would be on your favorite podcast player. Please share it with your female lawyer friends who are interested in learning about law and life in Japan. Please share it with your male friends and anybody else who you think would really get something out of it. Also, if you know someone who is a female lawyer and you think she might be really somebody who would enjoy being a guest on my show, please introduce her to me. I would love her to be a lawyer on air with me. All right, that's it for me now. I look forward to seeing you back here very soon. Until then, cheers, kampai, and bye for now. Thank you so much for listening today to this episode of Lawyer on Air. I really hope that you were inspired by the story you heard and that you discovered something new about women in the law. It's my passion to share my stories of amazing legal ladies, so please subscribe to the show so that you don't miss future episodes. And if you can think of even just one person to share this episode with, that would make my day. I would love to connect with you, so jump on over to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter or Insta, where you can find me. The links are in the show notes below. Well, that's all from me today, and I look forward to seeing you right here on the next episode of Lawyer on Air. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.